Today on an all-new Dr. Phil. A brutal assault that went viral. Exclusive interviews with the attacker.
I've never put my hands on a woman before.
According to Brianna, 3 attacks happened that night.
His mother.
He's telling you that he didn't remember doing any of this.
And the victim's sister.
She had been beaten.
Violently beaten.
If I was not drunk, I would not have done that.
Alcohol is not an excuse.
Today's going to be a changing day in your life. You've never had anybody working harder to bring you to the threshold of change than right now. Thank you very much. You know, these days, cameras are catching the unseen moments that we used to miss every day. From a delivery driver dancing after being left some treats, and a bear ringing a doorbell with its nose, to spotting a determined canine stealing a package. Video doorbells are capturing what's happening on America's front porches. But not everything these cameras catch is funny or heartwarming. In fact, some things they record are downright scary, downright criminal. That's exactly what happened when a video doorbell recorded a brutal attack in what appeared to be a kidnapping. Take a look.
Stop, Darnell!
Within hours, the homeowners released their doorbell footage to the police and a manhunt began.
Tonight, there's breaking news from Las Vegas.
The story started with that video there.
That was captured on a home surveillance camera.
The chilling video shows a woman frantically running to a stranger's home for help.
Stop, Darnell!
When her attacker catches up, he throws her to the ground and kicks her. The struggle continues as the man drags the woman by her hair to a white car in the street.
I heard some screaming and thought maybe they had an accident.
No one was home at the time, but the homeowners saw the video remotely and sent it to police.
Police say the couple was driving back from a New Year's Eve party with their 1-month-old baby.
The couple started fighting. The victim ran out of the car, leaving the couple's 1-month-old child in the back seat. During the assault, the victim says her attacker's name, Darnell.
Stop, Darnell!
It was the clue detectives needed.
Police arrested 23-year-old Darnell Rogers at the Park 80 Apartments.
Prosecutors say he is the man that was caught on camera attacking that woman.
Police say the mother and baby are safe tonight.
Darnell Rogers is in custody. He's facing kidnapping and domestic battery charges.
Well, Darnell's mother, Lovey, wrote to me 5 days after the video went viral, saying there's more to her son's story than meets the eye.
My son, Darnell, he told me that he and his girlfriend had gotten into a fight. Darnell said, she's taking the baby away from me and she's leaving me. His words were slurring. He was so drunk. Then I got a text from his girlfriend. She said he beat me up. And I said, are you okay? And she said, yes, I have the baby with me. And that was pretty much it. I said, did you hit her? And he said, she pushed me and I pushed her back. The next day, Darnell called me. He said, Mom, there's a video. And I said, what do you mean there's a video? He said, it's everywhere. My thoughts were, how bad could this video be?
Stop, Darnell!
When I saw that video, I was disgusted, angry. I felt shame. He's not my kid. He's not a monster. He just needs help. The kid that I raised, this is not him. I'm on the phone with him, and I just start yelling, why did you do that? And he kept saying, Mom, I'm sorry. Within minutes, I hear banging at his door. The police were telling Darnell they were going to drag him out the house. Darnell is on the phone telling me I should just run out the door. And I'm thinking, they're going to shoot you. I called the police, and I said, I am Darnell's mother, and he's ready to surrender. I told him when he surrendered, put your hands up, make sure nothing is in your hands, put your phone in your pocket, and leave it on speakerphone so that I could hear everything that was going on, and that is what he did. I had never heard of Darnell hitting a woman. I know without a shadow of a doubt, if he wasn't drunk that night, that wouldn't have happened. I started watching Dr. Phil 16 years ago. I'm just hoping that Dr. Phil can do for my son what I've seen him do for a lot of people.
Well, Levy, let's just jump right into this. Tell me what it was like for you seeing your son doing what is on that tape. He's attacking the mother of your grandchild.
When I first saw the video, I was disgusted. At the same time, I was thinking, this is not my kid. This is not the man I raised. Also felt failure as a mom.
I look at behaviors a lot of different ways. People can do things on impulse, and that doesn't make them okay, but they can just kind of reflexively hit someone. But here, he runs 30 yards. Yes. He grabs her, throws her to the ground, then kicks her, then picks her up and drags her. There's a lot of time in there to say, what in the world am I doing?
Correct, yes.
Why did he do this?
5 years ago, Darnell had a girlfriend named Sarah. And I have to share that in order to say where his journey. 5 years ago, he had a girlfriend named Sarah. Sarah died of meningitis. First girlfriend, they'd been together 2 years, in love with her. I seen my son go from this smiley kid, full of life, expressive, to being angry and just mad at the world. He started drinking. And when he drank, he would rage.
I get what you're saying. When you look at a cause and effect relationship in the psychological chain of events, the fact that he suffered this loss before, and it expresses itself now by him taking the mother of his child 30 days out of childbirth, slamming her to the ground and kicking her in the stomach. Those two things just don't have a cause and effect relationship. I'm sorry. Now, he may have become a drunk between then, and that may have washed away his inhibitions, but that event and this event, there's not a straight line between those two. You don't think that this is something that should be swept under the carpet.
Absolutely
not. You
not.
believe that he should be held accountable for this.
Absolutely.
And he's telling you that he didn't remember doing any of this.
He remembers some of it, but Darnell is a blackout drunk, and I've seen him blackout drunk.
They were at a party.
Correct.
A get-together, and he was drinking there.
Absolutely.
And they left the party, and she was driving.
Correct.
Where was the baby?
In the backseat of the car.
So while this is going on, we see the car out there with the door open, right? The 4-week-old baby's in the backseat of the car.
Yes, sir.
And he drags her, throws her back out there, puts her in the car, and drives away, and he does the driving.
Yes.
So he's driving drunk with his 4-week-old baby in the car and the mother in the car. When he's sobered up, he's a completely different person.
Totally.
And that's what you're saying when you say he's not the monster he's depicted to be. When he's not drunk, he's a completely different person.
Yes, sir.
All right. Look, when we come back, Darnell claims that night was the only time he has ever put his hands on a woman. Certainly the only time he's ever put his hands on the mother of his child. And now he faces potential life in prison. Well, we're going to talk to him next.
Last thing I remember was leaving the New Year's Eve party with my girlfriend. I was really intoxicated.
Stop, Darnell!
I couldn't remember why I was that mad. I've never put my hands on a woman before.
And later,
I didn't ask to be here on Dr. Phil today, but because of your actions, we're here. I'm here because we feel you don't get it.
Tomorrow, he lost their $1 million retirement fund, some of it on women.
women he met online but never in person.
Sophie is mute. April and I are engaged. This lady is Jane.
You're concerned that he's being scammed. Show me a document that's not fraudulent.
Well, I don't have it on me.
Do you want to be right or do you want to be happy?
I want to be right.
You are a loudmouth bully.
That's tomorrow. Then on Thursday, hundreds of couples targeted
Gabby told us that she was pregnant with twin girls.
in a fake adoption scandal.
This mastermind is actually a 24-year-old unemployed woman. She's actually here.
New Dr. Phil, Thursday.
Good evening. Police arrest a man accused of kicking and dragging his girlfriend.
The shocking moments captured on home surveillance video.
Do I believe that Darnell should be sentenced to life or a long jail term? No. I believe that he should get help. I do believe Darnell is hit his bottom, and he is in a lot of pain right now.
Darnell says that on January 1st, when he left the New Year's Eve party he was attending, he thought he got into his ex-girlfriend's car and just fell asleep. He says it wasn't until later, that same morning, when he woke up, that he learned exactly what he had done.
When I looked at my face, I saw the devil.
Stop, Darnell!
It's terrifying for me to know that I'm capable of doing something like that. Last thing I remember was leaving the New Year's Eve party with my girlfriend and my 1-month-old daughter. I was really intoxicated. The next morning, I woke up to a call from my girlfriend telling me that everything is on the news. Hung up the phone, and I saw myself on the news. I pushed her onto the ground. I also kicked her and dragged her back to the car. I couldn't remember why I was that mad. My girlfriend told me that it was over money, and I wanted to go get some weed.
I heard a bunch of banging at my door, knocking, so I went over to go peek and see who it was. After I looked outside the window, I could tell that it was the cops outside looking for me, saying if I didn't come out, they'd be dragging me out, kicking and screaming. I got on the phone, called my mom. I looked out, peeked out, and saw about 5 more cops downstairs. We waited here for about 5 hours until, my mom said they weren't leaving. She had me go ahead and let them know that I was going to surrender myself. I opened the door. It told me to put my hands up. My phone was still in my pocket. My mom was on speaker. I walked outside just like this. I had my hands up, walked down nice and slow. And when I got to this point about here, they had me turn around, put my hands behind my back, and then arrested me.
I've lost everything. My daughter, girlfriend, job. I can't leave the state. It hurts. I feel less than a man. I feel less than a father. I feel I've never put my hands on a woman before. I realize the severity of what I've done. My biggest fear now is spending time in prison. If I could say anything to my daughter, I would tell her I'm sorry. I'm sorry to my girlfriend and her family. Say I'm sorry to my family. What I want from Dr. Phil is how to live a sober life, how to get closer to God, and how to be the father I need to be for my daughter.
Well, Darnell has been charged with first-degree kidnapping, coercion, and 3 counts of battery constituting domestic violence. He is currently out on bail awaiting trial and wearing an ankle monitor. He's joining us via satellite now because he cannot leave the state of Nevada. So my first question is, what the hell were you thinking?
I wasn't thinking at all. I was completely intoxicated.
Do you have a drinking problem?
Yes, sir. Yes, I do.
Let's talk about that night. You say you remember getting in the car after leaving the party and going to sleep. She was driving, and you were in front seat, back seat?
Back seat.
And you were back there with the baby?
Correct.
And the next thing you remember is waking up at a gas station and arguing with your ex-girlfriend about money.
Correct.
Anything physical happened there?
Not to my knowledge.
So how did it fall apart where she stops the car and gets out and runs?
Honestly, I don't know.
Did you start putting your hands on her in the car, and she obviously had to get away from you? That's why she got out of the car, right?
Not to my knowledge of me putting my hands on her in the car. I don't see I did, no.
Okay, well, what made her stop the car, get out, leave the door open, a 4-week-old baby in the back seat, and run for her life?
I wish I could tell you, but I'd probably trying to get away from that monster right there in the video. But I know it was nothing physical.
If you don't remember, how do you know what happened in the car?
Well, the next morning when she called me, she kind of went over everything that happened.
Uh-huh.
And
so what did she tell you? What did she tell you happened in the car?
She thought that I would fight her or something. And when she got out the car, that's when I chased her.
Next, Brianna is the sister of the woman in the video. She says there is no excuse for what Darnell did that night. We'll meet her next.
When I saw my sister, it looked like a scene out of a movie. Clothes torn, bruises, blood, tears. I saw Darnell beat up my sister and then lie and say he didn't hit her at all. Darnell needs to pay for his crimes.
Started drinking in high school with some friends, just trying to be cool. Marijuana I've been smoking since I was 12 years old. It picked up after Sarah's death to every day, couldn't live without it. Alcohol, I drank 4 to 5 beers a day, 5 days a week.
Alcohol makes Darnell very aggressive. He's like a rager when he's drunk.
I blacked out, people having to drag me home from parties, later on showing me videos that I don't recollect at all.
One time, Darnell had 2 black eyes, stitches in his face, his tooth was chipped. He did not even remember what happened.
I'm afraid of what I'm capable of because when I drink, I may become that person in that video again.
On New Year's Day, Darnell was captured on a video doorbell assaulting his now ex-girlfriend. Her sister, Brianna, is here, and she says that night, Darnell didn't get physical with her sister just once, not twice, but 3 times. Take a look.
Darnell thinks he can play this story as to I'm an alcoholic, so I can use that as the reason why I beat up my girlfriend. New Year's Day, 1 o'clock in the morning, I got a call from my sister asking me to come pick her up. She was crying and frantically screaming. I said, I'll be right there. I could hear her yelling at Darnell, just give me the baby, let me get the baby safe. I didn't know how hurt she was. I just had to get there and make sure she was okay. When I saw my sister, it looked like a scene out of a movie. Clothes torn, bruises, blood, tears. She told me that they got in a fight. She was running to a random person's door for help because she was afraid for her life. I told my sister we should call the cops. And she was afraid that he would do something drastic because he had already threatened to kill himself, her and the baby. When Darnell drove up to the apartment, I was trying to get the baby out safely. We were arguing. Darnell was telling me to off. At that point, my sister got out of the car to try to de-escalate the situation. He threw the keys at my sister and pushed her down in the rocks. Luckily, my sister was able to get away and grab her keys. I grabbed the baby and we got out of there. Right in front of me, I saw Darnell beat up my sister and then lie and try to say he didn't hit her at all that whole night. My sister is the victim here, not Darnell. It's important for my sister's version of this story to come out. She deserves to have her voice heard. My family and I feel that Darnell needs to be accountable and pay for his crimes. And if that means jail, then that's where he belongs.
Well, Brianna, thank you for being here. You want to be your sister's voice in all of this. And the reason she's not speaking in this is because there are some very sensitive issues going on right now. Her children have been removed from her, correct?
Right.
And what is the reason that's been given for her children being taken away?
Their 1-month-old baby was in the backseat of the car that night. And because my sister didn't press charges, Child Protective Services thought it was best to remove the children from her care.
You say that night your sister's lip was busted. She had hair that was coming out from being yanked. She was bruised, bloody, clothes torn. This wasn't tussled, roughed up. She had been beaten.
Violently beaten. When I got to Darnell's apartment where my sister was, she got in my car and right away I could see her shirt, long sleeve shirt, torn, holes in the side. She grabbed my hand and made me touch underneath her head where all the welts were from where Darnell had been dragging her. She told me they were left a New Year's Eve party and stopped at the gas station arguing about money, and she was putting gas in the car. Darnell got out of the car, dragged her by her hair, shoved her face down in the car at the gas station, and started to try to beat her up.
Darnell, does that trigger your memory about something happening at the gas station?
No, sir, I don't remember that night at all.
They continued to fight, obviously, and Darnell told her to pull over because we're going to fight. So her plan was to pull over and leave, when he got out. She did, and he called her back and said, if you don't come back, I'm going to kill myself.
That's when she goes back and the fighting starts again.
Correct.
Okay. Do you recall threatening suicide?
No, sir.
Do you recall calling her?
No, sir.
Darnell says he was blackout drunk and doesn't remember a thing from that night, but Brianna says Darnell was very coherent and was able to drive and purchase marijuana that night. So how does this work? We'll talk about that when we come back. Did he surrender the baby?
No, he did not. Obviously, my sister's not going to come over here after you beat her up. That's when I decided it was best to just call the cops. From the very beginning of my sister's relationship with Darnell, she seemed different. Darnell was manipulating her, controlling her, and actually trying to cut us out of her life. While she was in labor, he wanted to be in control of the situation and didn't want anybody around. Once my sister had the baby, he didn't want her to bring the baby to visit us. I don't think she was able to see what we saw, how she was being manipulated. I think she was blind. She doesn't deserve to be treated like that. She doesn't deserve to be put through this.
So you went and picked her up. Mm-hmm. Did you see him then?
Yeah, me and my sister sat in my car waiting for Darnell to come back with the baby so we could get the baby home safely. And I actually called Darnell and texted him to see where he was at and to see if we could get the baby. And then he came back to the apartment.
Did he bring the baby back?
Yes.
And did he surrender the baby?
No, he did not. Obviously, my sister's not going to come over here after you beat her up tonight. Just give me the baby and I'll leave. He told me I didn't hit her tonight, and if she wants this baby, she can come get the baby. That's when I decided it was best to just call the cops. My sister thought maybe I can de-escalate this situation. She came over, and that's when Darnell came down the stairs and pushed her down in the rocks and started to go after her again.
This is his third time?
Yes.
So gas station, caught on camera, at the apartment, being pushed down in the rocks.
Right.
Uh-huh. Darnell, do you recall that?
No, sir.
Mm-hmm. Do you believe that he doesn't recall that?
It's not for me to say what he can and can't remember, but he was, in my opinion, he was coherent.
When you talked to him on the phone, did he seem intoxicated?
He was very intoxicated.
And this was when the police were at his
Both of them were.
So when the police were there and he was saying, hey, they're out there, and he sat in there for 5 hours before he went out, was he drunk during that time?
No. No.
Okay.
So the night of the New Year's morning, 12, 1 o'clock, 2, 3 o'clock, he was calling me. They want to take the baby. They want to take the baby. I said, give them that baby. I said, you are drunk. Why are you guys out on New Year's Day, this time of morning, with my grandbaby?
And this was what time?
This was probably about 2 o'clock in the morning.
Okay. And you said, give the baby.
Give them the baby.
And did he?
I believe there were some other incidents that transpired before they spoke on the phone. Once he did call his mother, he came down with the car seat, put the car seat down in the parking lot, and went back his direction.
With the baby in it?
Right, yeah, with the baby in it.
So once you told him, okay, and when you told him to give them the baby, he was drunk at that point?
Absolutely.
Okay. Darnell says there is no excuse for his behavior, but believes that the death of his girlfriend 5 years ago may be a factor, could be a link in this chain in what happened that night. I'm going to start saying what I think's going on here, because it's a whole lot different than what's been posited so far. And it's time to get down to the basics here. There are children involved in this, there's a relationship involved in this, there are court systems involved in this. Lifetime in prison hangs in the balance here. We're going to talk about all that when we come back.
After that night, I drank to get drunk. I ended up in a dark hole. I don't think I've ever grieved how a person should grieve. I think it could be the root of my problems.
Darnell says the death of his first girlfriend 5 years ago has left him filled with guilt, anger, and he's never really dealt with that. Levy says the day his girlfriend died, part of Darnell died as well.
Sarah was my first girlfriend, the first girl I ever told I love you. Our relationship was great. It was happy, vibrant. We were freshmen in college. I just came home for Thanksgiving break to see Sarah. She didn't feel herself. I could tell she was trying to hide that. She mentioned this twice to me, saying, I feel like I'm dying, but I'm happy that I'm with you. I didn't think much of it. Went and got some dinner. Next morning, she asked me to take her to the hospital because she had a really bad headache. We got onto a hospital bed. She went brain dead. She started flailing her limbs, like her arms and her legs, and she was shouting out this gibberish. The doctor said she had got meningitis, and it was just too late. Her parents came. She was pronounced brain dead in a coma, and then they pulled the plug later that night. If she would have come an hour earlier, they probably could have saved her.
He just could not wrap his head around the why. Why would God take someone so young, healthy, 18, full of life?
After that night, I drank to get drunk. I ended up in a dark hole. That definitely kicked off a snowball effect of me finding myself blacked out, drunk all the time.
He was disengaged. He was angry, mostly at God.
I quit college. I never talked about Sarah's death. I don't think I've ever grieved how a person should grieve. I think it could be the root of my problems.
Well, you know, I've commented on that, and Darnell, I'm sorry for your loss. That's a terrible thing to go through at a young age, and particularly to be there and be up close and personal when it happened. So I'm very sorry for your loss, and I have no doubt that that has had a profound effect on you. That in no way excuses what you have done here. It also doesn't explain what you've done here. And this happened 5 years ago, which means you've had 5 years to do something about it, other than self-medicate with alcohol and drugs and get blackout drunk when you know that you rage when you do it. And you've chosen not to do that. And when you choose the behavior, you choose the consequences, and now you're looking at consequences that are quite dire. You've talked to your sister, your family. From your side, what do you think constitutes justice here?
It seems as though they might be trying to say that as an excuse as to why he violently beat my sister, and that's not okay. And as the law states, you have to be accountable for your crime, and that means you have to go to jail.
Do you think he should spend life in prison?
I'm not, that's for a jury of his peers to decide.
I'm just asking your opinion.
I don't think he should spend life in prison, no. But I think it doesn't seem like he has quite grasped how impactful this has been on my family and my sister and her children. And he needs, I think, a little bit of a wake-up call and some remorse and some truth.
What do you think's just here?
I don't think he should get life in prison. I think that some of the charges are like, okay, kidnap. Is there consequences for our actions? Absolutely. There should be consequences for his action. I'm not justifying that at all. But what I am saying is a lot of times the system put guys in jail when they need rehab. And I'm not saying as a family, we're not saying her death is an excuse. That's not an excuse. It's not. What I am saying is I saw my son die with Sarah. He's never been the same, and he has drank since then. So I reached out to Dr. Phil because I've witnessed him help people and counsel people and also be brutally honest. So that's was he's my child. And no, I don't believe that, just walk away and nothing happens. I don't think that is going to happen, to be honest with you. But I want him to be the best Darnell possible before any of this could happen, not just for himself, but for his daughter.
Darnell, what do you think should happen? What do you think your consequences should be here?
First off, I want to say to Brianna and her family, I would never, ever, I'm not trying to use any of this as an excuse, ever. I know what I did was wrong, but I think you and I both know if I was not drunk that night, I would not have done that. So that's why I'm saying that the alcohol is a problem. That video was not the Darnell that you know. I'm sorry. As a man, that's nothing, I would never want anything like that to happen to my daughter, to her, or anyone. So I'm sorry. I'm very, very sorry.
Well, I'm here with Lovey, Brianna, and Darnell. Darnell was caught on video doorbell attacking Brianna's sister on New Year's Day. And according to Brianna, it was one of 3 attacks that happened that night. Lovey is Darnell's mother, and she says the Darnell on that tape is not the son that she raised. Darnell just said, you know, you're wrong. I'm not trying to excuse this, and I am very sorry. Brianna, you wanted to comment on that.
My recall of that night is everything from her mouth and exactly what I told the police the night I called them.
What we know that is actionable is what happened that night. And I think we can all agree that what happened that night has not happened before. You've never found her in that condition before.
No.
And what we're dealing with is what happened that night. And it is never okay. There is never an excuse for a man to put his hands on a woman in anger. It's never justified. There's never an excuse. There's never a rationale. It's never okay for any reason, drunk, sober, mad, not mad, whatever. There's never a reason. I don't care if she hits you. I don't care if she throws something at you. You got 2 feet, run, get away, do something, but you don't put your hands on a woman in anger.
Period.
You just simply don't. Now, I have some very strong feelings about something that's gone on here. I think there are injustices on both ends of this, and something has happened that I think has spun this way off of its axis and created some fallout that could have far-reaching implications that we have not even touched on yet. I'm going to tell you what that is right after the break. Well, I'm here with Lovey, the mother of Darnell, who can't be here in person, is joining us on satellite. He can't be here on person because he's not allowed to leave the state because he's out on bail for multiple felony charges for violence against the mother of his child. Brianna is here, who is the sister of that woman, and is speaking on her behalf. Now, when something like this happens, it has a profound effect on a lot of people. And something has gone on here that I have a real problem with. and this involves your side of the family. There are 2 children involved here, a 7-week-old baby and an 8-year-old child. These children have been removed from your sister's care.
Right.
Child Protective Services or the Department of Child and Family Services have come in and said, we're going to remove these children from their mother and withhold them from her.
Correct.
I think they have made a serious error in judgment here. Removing those children from this mother has victimized her twice and has victimized these children further. Now, I understand their logic here is, well, she didn't press charges against him, so therefore we're fearful that this is okay with her to be beaten like that, and so she's likely to put this monster back in their space, and these children could see her be beaten or they could be beaten, so she is negligent in letting them be in harm's way, and that's one of the definitions of child abuse is failure to keep children away from toxic situations or danger. You, Darnell, need to be held accountable for what you have done. I believe that Darnell has been overcharged here. He's been charged with crimes that can put him in jail for the rest of his life. What you have done is not okay. It's not okay. You should be held to account. You should probably do jail time. You should not be able to just say, gee, I'm sorry, I was drunk and didn't know what I was doing. That doesn't make it okay. I believe the reason that she did not press charges is because he's overcharged. And so she said, I'm sorry, I can't do that here. I can't do that. And so they say, okay, then we're taking your children away from you. And I just don't endorse that. I don't think it's right. And I think she needs to fight back and get her children back.
Everybody deserves a second chance. I think you need help. But I just still feel like you don't understand how traumatic this is. My sister and your child with her and her other child, our family is gonna have to live with this forever. I didn't ask to be here on Dr. Phil today, but because of your actions, we're here. And I understand you don't deserve life in prison. I don't even know what I want for you. I want you to seem more. I don't care about the crime, or I want you to seem more like you understand. I'm here because we feel you don't get it.
I can tell you that I am getting myself straight just because, not just because for myself, but for her and for your guys' family. I'm willing to show you guys action as opposed to just coming on TV and saying I'm sorry, because I know that doesn't do much. I am going to put in the work, and I apologize for my actions, and I can tell you I'm going to put in the work, and I am going to take accountability of what I have done, no matter what, you know. I just know that I need help doing it. I cannot do it alone. Darnell's way did not work the last 5 years. It didn't. We see where that got me.
It really will boil down to the actions. And I've said what I've had to say. I want to thank my guests today. For more information about today's show, you can log on to drphil.com. You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We'll see you next time.